Hi besties, welcome to Vicky's Signature. In today's video I'll be showing you how to cut and sew this beautiful butterfly gown that has a ruffle all around and then a snatch waist. So if this really sounds like what you want to learn, kindly stay tuned as we are about to start. So for this project we'll be needing our Ankara fabric, and then our crepe. So this crepe is a light crepe. So when we are done, we are going to see how much of the Ankara we consume. So now for us to cut it, this is the Ankara we have and we are not going to use all. So I'll go ahead and cut this part off the camera. So this is the part that I cut. So I will try and explain so that we all can understand it. So from my shoulder to where I want the sleeve to stop is around 24 inches. So now for the ruffles is 4 inches. What I have to do is to minus the ruffle and then adjust the wrapper very well so that we don't waste fabric, right? So now after adjusting it, this is what we have. So we can now start our measurement properly. So what I'm doing now, I'm rolling a margin of 1 inch so that we can start our measurement right from there. I believe we understand. So that is going to serve as our shoulder line. Now for our shoulder to the waistline is what, 16 inches. I'll mark it on the other edge, right? 16 inches. And then shoulder to the hip is 25, and I'll also mark it on the other edge. And then after marking it, I'll go ahead to what, connect the lines together, right? I'll connect the line together. So don't get confused. I will explain everything for you. Now after connecting the line together, I'm just trying to explain the line, the hip line and then the waistline. I'll go ahead to do my neckline. So this is going to be the back. I'm coming down by 1.5 inches for the width, for the length, and then the width is going to be 4 inches. So I'll use 3.5 so that when I sew, I'll have my 4 inches back. So I'm just using my cuff to connect the line very well, to cuff the neckline, sorry. Now at the edge, I'm adding 0.5 inches to the 1.5 so that once I sew it, is going to come back to my 1.5. At the edge of that side, I came down by 1.5 inches for our shoulder slope, and then I'll go ahead to add 0.5 inches for sewing. So don't get confused, I'm adding my 0.5 inches for sewing. Now next thing, I want to recheck our measurement. So this is 20.5, right? This is 20.5. The 0.5 now is going to be for the joining of the ruffle, right? So what I need on this cloth is just 20 inches, then my ruffles will make it the 24 inches I want. So I'm just trying to connect the lines together so that we can see it properly when we are cutting, right? Believe no one is confused at this point. Now after connecting the line, I have to measure the length of the gown, right? The length of the gown I'm working with is 39. So when I remove my ruffle inches of 4 inches, I'll be having 35 inches. So I'll mark 35.5. So the half is going to be the joining of the wrapper and the ruffle together. So that is why you are seeing me marking 35, right? 35.5. So I'll mark 35.5 on the both sides, and then I'll connect it together. I'll connect the lines together so that I can cut from that side. I believe no one is confused. So my length is 39 minus 4 inches for the ruffle is going to be 35. So I'll cut 35, then I'll add 35.5 so that the half is going to be for the joining of the ruffle. And if you notice very well, the cloth is not going to be straight, it's going to be curved like this. So what we are going to do is at the tip, can you see at the tip there, we are going to come in by about 5 inches. Yes, that is 5 inches that I am marking there. After coming in by 5 inches, you just use your hand. It's just a free hand and sketch, right? Just use your hand to curve it just the way you are seeing it so that it gives you that shape, right? Just curve it very well. Do a nice curve, and after that you go ahead to cut it. Go ahead to cut it. So this is going to be the cutting, and then we are making this the back. So we are going to be placing this back on another piece so that we can cut our front. So I'll go ahead to cut that piece. This is the piece I cut. I did this off camera so that it won't waste our time, because it's same measurements both the front and the back, right? So now I'll be placing it on it very well. Can you see? I'm trying to place it on it very. So after placing it, what I'll do next is for me to trace it out and still cut what I have there, so that we'll be having two back, then we'll make one our front. So the only difference between the back and the front is just the neckline, right? So we are going to remove the pin and then separate the back and the front. So let's use the upper one for the front so that we can see the mark very well, and then we'll drop the down one we just cut for the back, since all of them has same neckline. So now for us to do our neckline, you know the front has a band, right? It has a band. So what we have to do is come down by 9 inches. Yes, we'll come down by 9 inches, and then from that 9 inches we'll be marking 1.5 inches inward, just the way you are seeing it. I'll mark 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches, so that once I sew it will go to 2 inches. So after marking it, I'll just go ahead to connect the line using my straight rule and then down to the shoulder. Yes, can you see? Now after doing that, I'll just go ahead to cut it out. Yes, we're going to cut it out so that we are going to use our band to replace that side. Now for us to do the band width is about 2 inches. So for that 2 inches, we are going to cut 5 inches, so that when you fold 5 inches you have 2.5, then the half is going to be for the joining. So what I'm marking here is just 5 inches. I am cutting 5 inches of long rope, so that once I'm done joining, any excess I can trim it out. But what I'm marking is just a 5 inches something that we can work with, right? So just watch the way I'm doing it. You know, this is a very light fabric, this is a light crepe, so you have to be very careful. So after doing that, I'll go ahead to cut it out. I'll cut it out, and then I'll still cut another one because this one is not going to be enough. So this is the second one I'm cutting, so that when I join it, it will be enough for what we want. So it's good to have excess. Now before that, let's go ahead to join our shoulders together. So this is one part of the front, right? This is one part of the front. I'm joining it to the appropriate part of the back, and then the second one I'll join it to the appropriate part of the back. So I'll go ahead to sew it, that is join the shoulders together, just the way you are seeing me demonstrating. So guys, after joining the shoulders, this is what we have. So it is now high time we put our band, the band that we measured 5 inches of width and then a very long length. So for us to do that, we have to fold the front together like this and then measure the full length. So when I measure that, I have about 40 inches, but for us to be on the safe side, I will use about 40 to 41, 42 inches. So it's good we cut out the excess. Now I've gone ahead to join the band, right? I've gone ahead to join the band, and then this is me measuring our 40 inches that I measured on the clothes. So I told you that I'll not be measuring the 4 inches at 40 inches. I'll add about 1 or 2 inches, right? So after adding 1 or 2 inches, I want to cut out the excess so that we can work with the main fabric. Now you see the way I'm holding it gently, right? Now we'll go to the top there and start doing our calculation. So I usually use 13 inches starting from the part that you are seeing the tape, right? I'll measure 13 inches and then I'll mark there. So once I mark there, that is going to serve as the neck length, right? That is going to serve as the length of the neck, so that the 13 inches can enter your head. And if you want to measure it, can measure the circumference of your head and add about 1 to 1.5 inches. So that is what I usually use. So I'll go ahead to mark 2 inches. Can you see the way? 2.5 inches, sorry, because it was 5 inches because so I'm going to mark 2.5 inches and then connect the lines together just the way you are seeing it. That is 2.5 inches, so that we can sew on that straight part. Then when we finish sewing on the straight part, starting from that 13 inches so down, can you see? I didn't start from the up. So after sewing it, guys, this is what we have. Can you see this? Look at the way I'm turning it. Now after turning it, can you see the way the neckline have come out? So this is how the neck, your neck is supposed to be. Now we are going to iron it very well. So I'm just trying to sprinkle some water so that everything can relax properly. So if you have a light, if you have NEPA and then you have a steam iron, you can use it so that everything can relax very well. So after ironing it, we can bring our fabric, our Ankara now, so that we can fix it to the neck. Please, if you have watched down to this point and you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, kindly subscribe and turn on your notification bell so that when I post a new video, you'll be the first person to see it. So I just folded my ankara and then I'm notching the midpoint of it, which is at the back. Now, after notching the midpoint, I also notch the midpoint of the band we just did. So for the band, I'm not notching it again because I use a joining to note this. I believe you understand. Yes, so that part that I joined is going to be the notched area because that is where we start our calculation from. So look at the way I'm joining it to it. So I'll join and pin, join and pin, join and pin, so that we can go ahead to the sewing machine and then start sewing it together. So make sure you pin yours very, because when you pin, it keeps the fabric and the band in place, so that when you are sewing it, you don't get confused, right? Sorry if you are not seeing this part clearly, but yeah, this part is showing very well now. So this is me pinning it, and then can you see the neck is already coming out so fine. So after pinning it, I'll go ahead to sew it with 1/2 inch that we have been adding, that is 0.5 inch, and I also pin the other side and then sew it. So once I'm done sewing it, I'll bring it right now. After sewing it, this is what we have. I also give it another good press so that it can stay very fine, right? Now, next thing we have to do is to measure round. So that we can put our gathers, right? So I measured everything and I have 200 inches. Somebody said 200 inches. I have 200 inches. So I'm going to multiply that 200 inches by 2. So in total, I'm supposed to have 400 inches for our long gather. So that is the measurement I am doing. Yes, in total, I'm supposed to have 400 inches so that the gathers will gather at least a bit, so that it will not be too small. You get, it will not be too small. So, but if you are doing your normal big gather, you're supposed to times it by 3 or so, but I don't want a big gather, so I just want a moderate one. So after timesing it and doing everything, I have 400 inches, and this is it. You see how much it is, right? So for the width, I use 5 inches, that is 1/2 inches for joining and then 1/2 inches for folding, so that our 4 inches can still stay for our ruffles. I believe we understand, right? So I'll go to my sewing machine and run a gather stitch. I'll do this off camera because it will take a lot. Yeah, it take a lot. So I am back, and this is what I have after running a gather stitch with my sewing machine. I didn't use hand, I used my sewing machine. All you have to do is just to bring down your adjusting this thing down to the lower part, so that once you are sewing, it's going to show gathers just the way you are seeing it. Now I'll be sewing it on it like this. So I'll start from one part of the shoulder and then I'll sew it all around, so that when I get to that part again, I'll join the two together and then stitch on it very well. I believe we are all understanding. So once I come to this curved part, I'll also be sewing it curvely. I'll be sewing it around the curve like that. So make sure that when you are doing your own, you are using 1/2 inch in sewing it, right? So after doing that, this is what we have for the gather. So yes, notice that it's dark already. So this is around past 6. Yes, it's already past 6 here when I made this video, and it's already getting dark. So now after that, I'll come down by my shoulder. I'll come down by what, 13 to 14 inches, just the part that I want the sleeve to be open small. So I came down by 14 inches, right? Then I measure my bust measurement, divide by 4. You can also use your hip. So I'm using hip, which is 40 divided by 4 is 10, then plus 3 to 4 inches. So this is just like a bubu. Now you're going to put the measurement you have here. So in total, I'm using 13 inches and my hip is 40. So I just divided my hip by 4 and then I add extra 3 inches to give me that big effect. So I'll go ahead to mark that 13 inches all the way down. So once I'm getting closer to the ruffles, yes, where I did the gathers, I will stop it so that I'll not sew and enter the ruffles, right? So now anything that I mark on this side, I'll also mark it on the other side. Yes, anything I mark on this side, I'll mark it on the other side. Can you see? So I'm marking that 13 inches all the way to the up. Then when I'm done, I'll go ahead to sew it very well, and then I'll bring it. So guys, after sewing it, this is what we have. It's already dark very well, and my phone is also about to off, so I'll continue the following day. So you see that if we enter the following day, everywhere is going to be what? Bright. So but before then, I believe we can also see this part. This is the band that I cut, sorry, the rope I cut, which you'll be using to snatch the waist. So what you have to do, you come down by your hip, your waist measurement, that is from the shoulder to waist. Mine is 16 inches. Then I went up by 1 inch, so I'm making use of what? 15 inches. So around that 15 inches, I will divide my waist by 2. My waist is 28. When I divide it by 2, I have 14. So that 14 is going to be for the front. That is to say, one part 7 inches, another part 7 inches. So that is the 7 inches that I am marking. Right, this is the 7 inches that I am marking. So once I mark the 7 inches, do you see the way I'm marking it? Yes, once I mark the 7 inches, I'll take my rope inside, and then I'll stitch it inside, so that the stitch is, the longer side is going to be facing the back, so that when you are wearing it, you are going to tie it at your back, so that it will give you that snatched effect on your waist. So I'll also do same thing on the other side and mark 7 inches, and then put the other rope. Right, I'll do the other rope, and then that is also, this is what I was explaining before my phone went off. And then this is the next day. So next thing is for us to what? Fold this ruffles all around using tiny stitch, and I'll also go ahead to weave it. So after sewing it with the tiny stitch, this is what we have. Can you see? So make sure if you are using a light crepe like me, do well to weave your own, so that the thread will not be pulling just the way you are seeing mine, because after this video I went ahead to weave everything. Right, so now what we have to do next is we are going to draw the gathers together very well. Now at this point where we sew our 13 inches, we are going to trace that point to the ruffles. Right, then we'll stitch on the ruffles, so that once you are opening your hand, the ruffle is going to be there. It's not going to be opening, so that nobody will be seeing the bad face of the cloth. I believe you understand. So I'll go ahead to stitch on that ruffle part, and then after doing that, that is all for this tutorial. Bye, and see you in my next one. If you have any question, kindly drop it.